Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Jonah. I am with Discover, and today we are talking to Michael Zuber. How are you doing, Michael?
I'm doing good, Jonah. How are you?
Quite well. Super stoked to have you here. Uh,
Yeah.
Everyone watching, before we get going, just want to make sure, please hop in the comments. Let us know if our video and audio is sounding good. Want to make sure you all can hear and see us. Also, feel free to use the comment section to ask any questions, any conversation. We love to see that an interactive space, so don't be afraid to use it. We also will do our best to answer any questions you have during the event, but we will have a dedicated Q&A at the end. So if we don't get to the questions during Michael's presentation, we will make sure to get to them at the end. Just pop them back in there at the end so we can make sure to answer them. And also free to call out at any point where you heard about Michael, where you heard about One Rental at a Time or Discover. We love knowing how you all got to us and where you all found out about us. And also, if the presentation is moving fast or you have to get up away from the computer at any point, don't worry. All of this will be available in a replay. It'll be sent to you along with the course offer, which we'll talk about a little later. And it'll also be here on the YouTube channel and on our Discover event page. So, just to give a proper introduction, like I said, we are talking to Michael Zuber, and we are going to learn how to get started one rental at a time. We're going to learn the steps to financial freedom through one rental at a time method. And as the author of One Rental at a Time, Michael is often asked, how do you build a portfolio of rentals in a market that you never lived in? And that is why he created the course, How to Get Started One Rental at a Time. So, Michael, we were talking a little bit ahead, and I would love to ask you this question before we get into your presentation. But it sounds like your journey actually came from writing a book and turning it into a course. How did that kind of all come about?
Yeah. So my journey might be a little different than most creators in that I spent 15 years creating a portfolio of rental properties. So I read Rich Dad Poor Dad when I'm 30. I buy my first house in when I'm 30, 31. Ultimately continue buying through the greatest run up in the housing market, the housing crash, and the return. And ultimately I leave the rat race at 45, so 15 years later. When you're a type A individual and you retire at 45 and you realize none of your friends are retired and you have lots of time, you have to do something.
Sure.
Jonah, I almost went back to work. Not because I needed the money, but because I was bored. So the first thing I did, Jonah, is I remember reading Rich Dad Poor Dad and remembering that book didn't tell you how. It gave you a mindset shift. It kicked me in my butt because I was living in the rat race and not knowing it. So what I did is I spent about 3 or 4 months writing a book that has now become a bestseller on Amazon called One Rental at a Time. In that book, I happen to include my email at multiple points. And again, it's not a how-to book. It's a here's 15 years, here's what worked, here's what didn't. Oh, by the way, I was silly. I was like, hey, if you want to get a hold of me, here's my email. So lo and behold, book sales start taking off. And my email, right, from people I have yet to meet, start saying, hey, how do you do it? 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 So about 6 months after I released the book, I fundamentally don't have any other time to keep helping. So that's when I research online platforms and I find Teachable, right? I was not a social media guy. The only thing I had was a LinkedIn profile because I was an employee. I didn't have Facebook. I didn't have YouTube. I didn't have Instagram. Didn't have TikTok. Didn't have any of these. Didn't want them.
Right.
But I wanted to help people. So, you get 100 people saying, how'd you do it? I found Teachable. So I spent about 8 weeks documenting how to get started one rental at a time. And my story is interesting because I grew a portfolio in a market I never lived in. I live in the Silicon Valley. It's really expensive here. And, I found a cheaper market, live where you want, invest where the numbers make sense. So I tell them how to focus, how to build deals. We'll do all of this in the PowerPoint, but it was definitely, I had no vision. When I retired, the day I retired, I had no intention of writing a book or creating a course, but I was either going to go back and get a job or do something else. So hence one rental at a time, the book, YouTube, Instagram took off. So kind of funny.
Yeah. I just love that it's a different path than some creators take. I love hearing it. Well, should we dive in and
why not?
get into it? Yeah.
So I think all I have to do is do this and expand. I think that's what I'm supposed to do. Is
Yep.
that right?
Yep.
Hey, awesome.
And it is up and looking great. So I'll let you take it away.
Very cool. So this is the book cover, One Rental at a Time, as it says, The Journey to Financial Independence Through Real Estate. You can get it on Amazon or Audible in paperback, hardback, and whatever that, or in their digital form. So here's a little bit about me. We're going to spend about 30 minutes going through the story, and I'm actually going to teach you how to find good deals, give you a little taste of what's in the course. So tell you about myself. I'm going to share with you my beliefs about investing and how I've helped thousands of people. I'm going to share my entire journey from one house through financial freedom over 15 years, nearly 200 units. I'm going to break it down into 6 stages. I'm going to talk about some mistakes to avoid. Some I made and some others have made. I'm going to show you how to find a great deal. I'm going to give you the 4 steps in this presentation. I am also going to show you how I used those 4 steps in 2002 and how I used those 4 steps for 2.5 years. Then I'm going to give you a quick message, what I hope you take away from this. And just for fun, we'll talk about what is in what's going to happen in the next decade. So my journey starts as a 30-year-old full-time employee who didn't even know he was living in the rat race, right? I had gotten raises, made more money, and spent more money. I didn't have any real savings to speak of. College educated, went to a local university, got a master's degree, married with 1 child. My real journey starts after I lost 150 grand. $150,000 stock market loss is how I start my real estate journey, right? I happened to be burned by 2 frauds back in the day. Both Enron and WorldCom hit me hard. I went first to Enron, WorldCom second. Both were audited, both were best in breed, and they were both frauds. And that stung. I actually didn't know that was ultimately going to become a positive moment, but it really did set us on a new journey, which was buy and hold rental properties. I happen to live in a market, as we said early on, that is ridiculously expensive, Silicon Valley, and nothing ever cash flows. I spent a year, because all the books and courses I had taken in the early 2000s said invest 30 minutes from home. That is just not practical when you live in Mountain View or Los Altos or Los Gatos or Sunnyvale, for that matter. You have to find a different market. My relationship with money has not been great. I grew up in a family household that was often without it, and it was very loud and physical anytime we didn't have money, which again was all the time. So I carry that baggage to this date, right? Money is a stressor, and thus losing 150 grand early on is not a great feeling. I will highlight for you that have kids, my most important class, the class that helped me make $1 million when I was working in sales, was a class I took in junior college. This junior college class was called public speaking. It may have been called speech, but I just call it public speaking. If your kids are thinking about or not thinking about going to college or whatnot, make them take a public speaking class. You need to be able to communicate in this world, and public speaking is very important. I was actually an introvert before this class. I would have never been able to talk to you about this subject, but because of this class and because the teacher successfully got me out of my shell, I've been able to do this for most of my career. And then finally, leaving the rat race at 45 after replacing 2 6-figure incomes. My wife and I both worked. She retired first. I retired second, as you will see in our 6 phases. So a couple of beliefs. If you're watching this, you probably have interest in real estate. Lots of people I speak with. I have a YouTube channel that does 5 videos a day. Lots of new investors reach out. Most of you are not focused. You know, you watch Michael Zuber, you read One Rental at a Time, you want to be a buy and hold investor. Then you go watch somebody else and you want to wholesale. Then you want to syndicate. Then you want to Airbnb. Then you want to arbitrage. Then you want to do new development. Then you want to do tiny houses. Then you want to be in Denver. Then you want to be in Fresno. Then you want to be in Huntsville, Alabama. You have to focus. You have to slow down. You have to learn the skill. I believe and have successfully taught thousands of people now that in real estate investing is a skill. It's not as something you're born with. You are not born tall, fast, or strong. you can learn this skill. And because it's a skill, each and every person watching this, either live or on replay, can take the time to learn the skill. And because it's a skill, we can all get better. I believe that the process is very simple. I will give it to you in this presentation. And once again, I will show you my 2002 buy box in a moment. You must create a buy box that's very tight, very focused. You must look at it every day, and you must ignore everything else. Step 2, hint, there is no step 2. It's repeat step 1. Took this from the good old Warren Buffett, right? Rule number 1 with money is don't lose money. Rule number 2 is rule number 1. Same deal. In order to gain focus, you must create a buy box and look at that buy box every day, rinse and repeat, 10, 20 minutes a day. That's what it takes. And again, I will show you what I mean momentarily. You must learn what a good or great deal is, no matter what strategy you want. I talk about good and great deals all the time. If you want to be a flipper, still good and great. Wholesaler, good or great. Airbnb, same thing. You must be able to understand what the highest yield or highest cash on cash or whatever your variable is. And that starts with understanding average and then only doing good or great deals. In my course, I give you the ability to answer this question. You must learn average deal. What is an average deal in my market? And specifically, back to step number 1, what is an average deal of my buy box? That is the key. When I started investing, as you will see later in this slide, my buy box had a 6.5%. By the time the 2010 crash is in full force, my buy box was 15%. And again, you will see these numbers later in the deck just to show you what I mean. Another thing you have to realize, if you're going to be a buy and hold investor, one rental at a time, it is time in the market is better than time in the market. One of the things that you will see in my story is the ability to recycle capital. Something I write about in the book, One Rental at a Time, again on Amazon, is that first house we buy on Norris Drive, which I document in the book. We put $20,000 down. That $20,000 in 2002 has been used over and over and over again. And as I sit here talking to you today in 2021, that $20,000 is now $500,000 in equity. It's 21 units and it's $100K in cash. We've been able to do that via cash out refis and 1031 exchanges. That's how powerful time in the market is. Please never stop networking. You will see, I think in phase 3 of my 6 stages, that attending an event like the one you are watching here saved my butt. It allowed me to understand we were in a dangerous times and allowed me to get out of the way. Please try to meet 3 to 5 new people a week in your focused area, in your market. So here we go. Here's the 6 stages going from nothing to something. Stage 1, we've already lost 150 grand. We got 40 grand left. We buy our first house December of 2002. It's 107 grand and rents for $10.95. We are so happy. We went out to dinner and celebrated. Unfortunately, we didn't know that after that tenant moved in, they would never pay rent again. The family ends up getting divorced after moving in for 2 weeks. The wife takes off. The husband becomes a professional alcoholic and stops going to work. So he never pays rent again. We lose 4 months. And when we finally get the property back, we have to pay $15,000 to repair the damage this first tenant did. It was heartbreaking. That was heartbreaking. On top of that first purchase, that first $40,000 also allowed us to buy 2 more. So at the end of stage 1, we have 3 rental homes. And we have a horrible story from tenant number 1. Stage 2, we have no money left. We start recycling capital. We now have a new tenant in that first property who's been paying rent and never missed a payment. We do a cash out refinance. Unfortunately, I'm an idiot at this point. The bank says, how much cash do you want? And I say, how much can I get? And the bank says this. And I say, great, I'll take that. I did not realize at the time that I had successfully signed up for an alligator or negative cash flow. My new mortgage payment was about $1,200. And if you remember, my rent was $10.95. I was losing money every month. The only picture in my first book is one of an alligator, and it says, don't buy or create alligators. The good news is that cash out refi allowed us to buy 2 more houses. So now we are at 5. We continue to do cash out refis. We do cash out refis of property number 2 and property number 3, buying 2 more properties. So at the end of stage 2, we now have 7 properties in 8 units because one of the properties is a duplex. However, we can't buy number 9 because nothing cash flows. We are at a very dangerous time, and I didn't even know it. Stage 3, we attend a real estate meetup just like this one. And it is called the California Crash, done by a gentleman named Bruce Norris, who I have paid to go see multiple times. He now resides in Florida. Just spoke to his son the other day. California Crash. It introduced concepts that I had no idea about. It introduced a topic that saved our bacon called the Affordability Index. We did some research and realized that the market we had 8 properties in was about to collapse. So we sold, or more technically did 1031 exchanges. Our 1031 exchanges took about 18 months to complete, but we went from 8 units to 80 units, all in the same market. To show you how nutty the market was, because again, we started buying before the crash. We sold property number 1, Norris Drive, for $264. It goes up to $300, so we did sell a little early, but ultimately foreclosures at $75,000. The market I was investing in, the single family market, fell almost 70%. Enter stage 4. Banks start saying no to investors like us. We are finding better and better and better deals, but no banks will lend to us. We start going to hard money. I start being a featured blogger on Bigger Pockets back in 04, 05, 06. I published weekly back when Brandon Turner was an intern. I've been interviewed on there by Josh Dorkin, presented at their first event in Denver back in the day. After going to hard money, we go private money, and things get really, really good. Instead of paying 12% and 3 points on hard money, we start borrowing 100% with private money. And at the end of stage 4, Wall Street, deep pockets come in and change the game forever. Wall Street started buying all the foreclosed homes. So what did we do? We started buying foreclosed apartment buildings. People don't realize this, but real estate markets don't go in sync. Houses and commercial or apartments are different cycles. So learn them, focus, follow, and take advantage when the cycles turn. Stage 5, values are rising now. It's 2012, 13, 14. We keep buying, but we're buying slowly. My wife, Olivia, retires. We've been buying deals every year. We're never done, right? Real estate's a skill. You can always add more. We start refining money because private money at 10% is expensive when you can get 30-year money at 6 or 5.5. We start paying off some assets because we're done, right? We've built our pile. And at the end of stage 5, I retire. Stage 6, we continue to refi and reposition debt because debt gets cheaper. We now have rates at 3.5% and 4%. We take the opportunity to lever up our fourplexes and pay off houses. We actually start flipping properties because now we are both retired and have too much time on our hands. We had not flipped for 15 years. We only did that after we retired. We actually start borrowing millions of dollars in private money again because we are having it help us with flips. We start the one rental at a time message, right? We write the book, we create the YouTube channel. Those lead to creating the course that we are talking about today. And finally, we're helping 20,000 plus people a week by creating 5 pieces of original content every day on YouTube, on podcasts, and Instagram. So some mistakes. I've said this before, and I'll probably say it again. Most new investors don't focus. You are a shotgun when you should be a sniper. In the beginning, you must focus to learn the skill. In addition to that, something we didn't talk about in this story is Olivia and I got our money right. As I mentioned, when we were 30, we did it all wrong. We were spending 100% of our income. By the time we're 32 or 33, we're living on 50% of our income. That other 50% allows us to save, have an emergency fund, and keep building. Needs versus wants. It's an important part. Other things I've seen people do, you get on the real estate bandwagon for 3, 4, 5 years, And suddenly you start saying things like, I deserve this, I deserve that. And when you expand your weekly or monthly spend, you stunt your growth. The only reason we were able to replace 2 six-figure incomes is because we never did that. We didn't enjoy anything nice until we were both retired. And it's just, don't kill momentum. It's so hard to build. Lots of new investors get interested in real estate investing, and some of you start getting attracted to cheap properties. I can't tell you how many investors have said, Michael, I would love to buy a Detroit, Michigan property for $1,000 or $1,000 or $1 or some crazy number. I have spoken with dozens of folks who went not necessarily bankrupt, but lost lots of money buying cheap. Don't buy cheap. Buy yield, cash on cash. Understand how hard your money is working. And that is all the course, How to Get Started One Rental at a Time, is about. Other mistakes I have made is I did Band-Aids in the beginning when I had 3, 4, 5 houses and something broke. I would try to fix it. And over time, I lost money. If it's broke, replace it. It will save you money long term. A big mistake of mine, and something I try to hammer home in the course, is you have to appreciate your cash. For most investors, myself included, cash allows me to go fast or slow. And if you're using your cash poorly, you will go slower. That is a big thing I try to teach, and why we do a calculation called yield. Other mistakes I've made is depending on banks. As I mentioned, I think at the start of phase 4, I didn't know banks could say no. If you have an 800 credit score, 6-figure job, and 7-figure net worth, why would a bank say no? I don't know. Sometimes they're scared, and sometimes banks say no. And again, please never stop networking. 2020 was a very hard year to be a buy and hold real estate investor. I wrote 100 offers and got 0. However, I closed 6 deals. How can that be possible? Well, I wrote 100 offers out of the MLS and got 0, but I had 6 people in my network bring me off-market deals. This allowed me to add 6 more properties to our portfolio. So here it is. Here's the big give. A lot of this is in the course in more detail, but here we go. I told you focus is important in the beginning. You must create a tight buy box, step 1. And again, in the very next slide, I will give you my buy box from 2002. You must look at that buy box every day for 10 to 20 minutes and document the change. This is all about step 1 in my course. I give you my spreadsheet, all of that, but you can take this right from here and go give it a shot. From here, you're going to also start to learn other variables like rent, insurance, taxes, make-ready costs, because you need to start calculating your cash on cash or your yield. Ultimately, what you need to find out after looking at your market every day for 60 or 75 or 90 days is what is an average deal in my buy box. And once you know average, you have all the power, because now you can do good or great deals. So let me give you my buy box from 2002. This is what I mean by focus. This is what I mean by specific. I happen to choose to invest in Fresno, California. There's a zip code called 93703. It's called the Mayfair. I chose single family homes. That's what SFH is. So that means no condos, no units, no apartments, no trailer parks, just single family homes. I only wanted 3 or 4 bedrooms. So no 2 bedrooms, no 5 bedrooms. I wanted 2 baths. So no 3-bedroom, 1 bath, no 4-bedroom, 1 bath, only 2 baths. And I wanted a 2-car garage. I looked at this one buy box almost 3 years. Guess what I bought? I only bought in the Mayfair 3 or 4 bedroom, 2 bath homes. Why did I do that? Because I knew what a good or great deal is. I could tell you immediately after looking at my market for 2.5 years what a good or great deal was. That was so powerful and allowed us to get deals. Step 3, you need to start doing more work. You need to start figuring out make ready. One of the things you will see when you start to have a focused area is some of them will be clean and perfect, called turnkey. Others will be a dump. So you need to start understanding the make ready cost. I consider A, turnkey or zero make ready. C might be a full gut. Maybe it's $25,000, $30,000, $35,000. And B is somewhere in the middle. We talk about all this in the course, go in more details, of course, but that's how you start filling this out because you have to appreciate your cash, and make ready is cash. Finally, what did this all mean to me? In 2002, an average deal, Mayfair 3 or 4 bedroom, was 6.5%. Again, these yields will change based on the market. In 2010, the average yield was 15%. Everything was on sale. And today, the market is pretty tight, not a lot of inventory. Today, it's 6%. Again, once you know average, you have all the power. And that is what I teach and what I've taught thousands of people. So, a couple of messages for you. I want you to understand that a better financial future can be had by everyone. I can't promise financial freedom because financial freedom takes time. It took Olivia and I 15 years. It may take some of you 10. Not many people can hold on that long, but all of you can have a better financial future. I think if you just get to 4 buy and hold rental properties, your future will be different. In 20 years, your properties will be almost paid off. You could sell one and pay off the other 3. You could do cash out refis, whatever you want. Your future will be better. Again, real estate investing is a skill. It can be learned. Do not rush the process. I talk about doing this daily discipline 60, 75, 90 days because you have to learn average, and it takes time. It takes repetition. So many people get the course, they get 4, 5, 6 days in, they're bored. They want to expand their focus. If you do that, you will get negative leverage. Get comfortable 10 to 20 minutes a day, and someday, 45, day 58, whatever it is, you're going to be able to tell somebody, your friend, your significant other, oh my God, I know what an average deal is. And once you know average, you will only do good or great deals after that. Get coaching and mentoring from somebody who's proven, not somebody who read a bunch of books. Also, I suggest doing some work on your own before you get mentoring. For me, this is best said by a golf analogy. I picked up a golf club for the first time at 20 years old. No idea what I was doing. But I got a bucket of balls every day for a month. And by the end of the month, I was hitting the ball pretty consistently. Then I got mentoring. And then I learned how to close the club face and not to grip the club so hard. I think a lot of us can use YouTube University and Bigger Pockets or books and just get started and then get mentoring from there. Lastly, or 2 more things, I want you to know that you can absolutely be a buy and hold investor and hold a full-time job. You do not have to quit. In fact, you should not quit. Having a full-time job gives you the best rates. You have the best opportunity to adjust your spending, to have emergency funds, and keep buying more and more into the future. And then lastly, I just wanted to tell you, I believe in you. I believe you got this. Again, real estate investing is a skill. I've now, in the last 3 years, helped thousands of people get better at it. It's quite a good feeling. So let's have some fun, talk about the next decade. So my crystal ball is as broken as yours, but hey, that never stopped anybody from guessing about the future. The first thing I will say is inflation is here, and it's going to be pretty bad. If you follow me, and actually in the course, in the bonus section, there's a 50-year spreadsheet. And I think we're going to repeat the 1970s. And I have all kinds of data in there to show you what happens in the 70s. Basically, interest rates go up, wages go up, housing goes up, and rents goes up. The people that won the 70s were people that bought homes in 1970 and held on to 1979. You had the lowest rate. You had a fixed rate mortgage. You had rents that doubled, values that doubled. It was actually a good time if you owned homes. If you didn't own property, the 70s were terrible. Wages are going up, assets are going up, and rents are going up. In fact, today we just had CPI come out at 5.4%. That is the 4th month in a row it has been over 5%. It is not going to get better anytime soon. You cannot beat inflation, but you can use it. And the federal government is giving you a gift of sub 4% 30-year money. I want to borrow all the money I can at 3% when inflation is 5%. It's just a simple math calculation. Higher interest rates are coming in the next decade. How high? No idea. Higher is my answer. They are going to go higher. We can't keep going lower and lower, I don't think. Higher taxes. Let me be very clear. As I said in point 1, I believe inflation is here, but I also believe inflation is a tax. In fact, I believe inflation is the nastiest tax out there because inflation hurts everyone. Unfortunately, inflation hurts the poor and the middle class the most. You drive, you have gas, you have food, you have childcare, clothing, healthcare, rent. It's all going up. And it's a horrible tax. And the reason the government doesn't talk about it, because they can't do anything about it when they're printing all this money. Inflation, you can either use inflation or we all suffer from it. Affordable housing. It is a national crisis that no one is paid to fix. So what this means is you should do the work. Find some affordable houses, find some older homes, buy them, become a landlord, rent them out. Get 30-year fixed rate money so that when rents rise, your cash flow rises. I do think smaller homes and smaller apartments are coming. One of the ways around this affordable housing crisis we could do is just build smaller homes. So I think the days of the McMansions of the 80s and 90s are over. I think we're going to get smaller from here. I also think we might see some innovation in housing, whether it's 3D printed homes, container homes, or tiny homes. I think there's a good chance that at least one of these or something like them take off because we need more affordable housing. And maybe the answer is a tiny home or a container or 3D printed. And then lastly, a 40-year mortgage. I think sometime this decade, the 30-year mortgage goes bye-bye and we only do 40-year mortgages. I think the government's going to do that because they're going to sell it as a lower payment. As somebody who owns a bunch of real estate, it's only going to make my real estate worth more because people buy properties on payments. So those are some of the things that I think are coming in the next decade. And as I wrap up, again, you can get one rental at a time on Amazon. And then here, what I've released just in the last 10 days is another book. First, One Rental at a Time was written for me. I wanted to know my story. I wrote 15 conversations with real estate millionaires for you because I wanted to find 15 different voices, 15 different stories about people that do different things in real estate. And that just went live. It's available on paperback and hard copy again on Amazon. So that is my presentation.
Michael, thank you so much. I love just to the point and very easy to understand. I especially appreciate your perspective on kind of where things are going in the next 10 years because it seems like such an interesting time. I know my partner and I have considered buying property and it's always like, is it a good time? Is it a bad time? But you put it in a good way where it's like you can use it if you're smart about it.
Mm-hmm.
Real quick for everyone watching, please feel free to pop any comments into the chat there. We're going to answer a few questions as they come up. And also, I just wanted to say Michael's course is available. You can get the link. It is pinned in the top of the comments. It's also in the description of the YouTube video, and it will be emailed to you if you RSVP to the event. Now, Michael, I just wanted to start off with a few questions I had when you were doing your presentation. It is a unique, I haven't really heard this perspective before that you can really invest from a distance. Everything I looked at was always like you were saying, be close so you can address it or you can work on it. I'm curious if I'm sure this is in the course as well, but even just a little nugget of something, if you have any advice on when you're looking for a market, when you're looking for a location, roughly what are you looking for? Because it's not, like you said, just the cheapest place.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
So
would you mind getting a little more, just a little more specific about those like details of what you're looking for?
Absolutely. So a couple of things that were paramount for me when I was looking for that market, right? So we spent a year, Bay Area is not going to work, right? I wanted to invest 30 minutes from home. I
Right.
wanted to. It just didn't make sense. So what we were looking for was we wanted a city, not a town, right? A city, call it north of 100,000,
Mhm.
town less than 100,000. I wanted a town that really wasn't based on tech, right? I live in the Silicon Valley. At the time, the tech wreck had already happened, right? The dot-com blow up. So I didn't want to have a market that was tied to tech.
Sure.
Fresno is exactly the reverse. Fresno is basically food, right?
Right.
No, not a lot of
Right.
tech going on in Fresno. So I wanted diversification, right? If I lost my job in tech, I didn't want my tenants to potentially lose their job. I didn't want the cycle to be the same. And then lastly, for me, I actually wanted a big city. I wanted 500,000 people.
Mm.
Right? That was a big thing for me. Lots of people now, 100,000 is enough, but back then, I wanted 500,000 people, and Fresno was the first market that made sense.
So is that just to increase your like pool of possible renters or
Yeah, I
okay.
wanted a real economy. I'd only lived in big towns, right? A lot of my early choices were my experience, right? Why did I buy
Right.
houses? Because I only lived in a house. Why did I want 3 bedrooms? Because I only lived in a 3 bedroom, right?
Right.
I just didn't know any different. Now I have some 1 bedroom, 1 bath houses. I would have never looked at those in the beginning because I'd be like, who'd want to live in a 1 bedroom? Well, actually, a lot of people like to live in 1 bedroom. Some of my longest tenants live in 1 bedroom homes, right? Single people that retire, they get a cat or a dog and they never leave. It's actually a pretty good model, but I would not have known that in 2002.
Well, and maybe that changes too, right? Family models change over
Mhm.
time and what it is. Yeah. Well, so I have a tag along question to that, which is
Mhm.
uh, I spent the last 20 years living in Seattle, and thankfully my parents bought a house there, but the market there has become
Nutty.
absolutely crazy. And it's at the point where a lot of my friends are in their late 20s, early
Mhm.
30s, and
Sure.
they're just looking at have $500,000 for a 1 to 2 bedroom,
Wow.
no question. And so it's hard for me because uh, you can still find a deal
Mhm.
there, but it also seems like, do you have some qualifiers when you're looking at locations where it's just
Yeah. Well,
like
let's
the Bay Area where you're just like, absolutely not,
Well,
under
there's
no
a couple of
circumstance?
things, right? So something that's in the course. The beauty of one rental at a time it started with a book and a YouTube channel.
Mhm.
So we've had great creators add bonus content, right? There's a tons of bonus content in the course. Actually, if you add up the hours, I think there's more bonus content than my stuff, which is kind of funny. But one of the bonus content is from the Lumberjack Landlord and Dion from Dion Talk, both great YouTube channels. But they do house hacking.
Mm.
They both leverage house hacking to become financially free. Dion talks about buying up in around Seattle, right? He bought a duplex in Seattle. There's another guy named Todd Baldwin who room hacks. Todd Baldwin, he actually worked at Amazon. At 23 years old, he bought a $500,000 home. Now, this is a couple of years ago, but the numbers make sense. Bought a $500,000 home in Seattle that had 5 bedrooms. He rented 4 of them. He lived for free. He had just sold it. He has a bonus content in the course as well. And he's been on CNBC, Millennial Money, and all. He's 29 now. He sold it, made 300 grand, and he made 2 grand a month with roommates. He lived for free.
Ah,
So, what I would tell most people in their 20s is seriously consider house hacking, which would be units, or if you can, live with friends.
right.
You can live for free. And again, he got into that $500,000 home by saving 19 grand, 3%, right?
Which is
Closing
not
cost.
even that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
nothing.
uh, again, I'm so happy to have other experts add bonus content like that. I think getting on the property ladder is critical. I think you can start the cheat code to wealth is the property ladder. So even if you're in the Bay Area or Seattle or Manhattan or Miami, other San Diego, and you're 24, stop spending stupid money going to the clubs. Save some money,
Yeah.
3.5%, and live with roommates for 4 or 5 years. You could be financially free by 30.
Yeah.
30.
Or even if you're living with 4 other people, then your rent's paid and you can
You
go to
live
the
for
club
free.
and you have the
Yeah, you live for free, and then you
Yeah,
know what you should do is save up for the next one, and then the next
right.
one. But yeah,
Yeah.
again, if I were to do this all over again at 22 when I graduated college or whatever it was, I would I would probably get. They don't have a lot of fourplexes where I live. I would do what Todd did. I'd buy a 4 5-bedroom house. I'd rent to a bunch of friends. 2 years later, I'd buy another one, and another one,
And
and
keep
and
yeah.
I'd be done at 30. Can you imagine being done at 30 when I didn't even start till I was 30?
I mean,
Man,
I'm
crazy.
29 and just maybe starting now. I've put my investment and my focus elsewhere because I came from a family that the only reason they bought property was through inheritance and stuff. But there's
Mm,
so much fear and just anxiety around all of that. And my dad bought right before the market crash.
ah,
And so well, the whole family went through
mhm.
that anxiety. And it
Oh
turned
yeah,
out to be great. Now we're in Seattle. It's fantastic. So it works, but it takes a long time and some chutzpah to get into it.
yeah.
And it helps to have creators like you giving these resources.
Time
But
in the market is better than timing,
yeah,
right?
yeah, and that's a hard question to learn when you could have been spending the time there, right? But you mentioned something though that kind of I wanted to touch on as well, which caveat for everyone watching. I know myself, and I'm pretty sure Michael is not a financial
Yeah.
advisor, so this
No,
is just a conversation.
I'm just asking
But
questions. Yeah.
yes, and say, but if you were to give just uh, like saving money is easy to say, but if you were to give some maybe a little more actionable advice about how
Yep.
to prepare for buying a house, because most people aren't just in a position where like tomorrow
Yeah.
they could
So
go and do it. Or
yeah.
even the first time I went to get pre-approved, I could get a loan, but when I really sat down, I was like, it's crazy they're giving me this much money.
Yeah. What are they doing?
It's not a good idea. Yeah. So like
Yeah.
any
There's
things to look
there.
out
I'll
for.
give you two exercises. So first, I want you to sit down with you and your partner, significant other, whatever it is, and say, how much money do we spend a month?
Mm,
I want you to bat it around and guess. And then I need you both to honest up and track expenses every day for a month. I just now, and most people are off by a factor of 100%. You say 3, you spend 6. You say 4, you spend
sure.
8. Not good. Not
Right.
good. Then the second thing, and this is what Olivia and I did when we went from spending 100% to spending 50, is we took out our credit cards, our ATM cards, our debit cards, and we just started listing need versus want, N and W. And we just started whacking wants. We just got real honest with ourselves. We got real uncomfortable. We still had food. We still had this. We just didn't have the nicest clothes or the newest clothes, or didn't have the newest cars, and didn't go out to eat all the time. And, when you start whacking wants, that saving goes up. And what people really need to realize is you have a lot more wants every month than you're willing to admit.
Yeah.
And we got really good. We started saving 50% of our income after
That's
about 3
really
years.
yeah. But even then, just I'm sure you're more aware and able to choose. Okay, if we're gonna splurge a little this month, we know the thing we really want,
Yeah, yeah.
and
It
not
became
just a want on a
conversations,
whim.
and
Right,
yeah, we
right.
would, if we, for example, we went to the mall or we did this, and one of us wanted something, we would never buy it that day,
Mm,
right? We would wait, we'd come back. If we still wanted it a week later, okay, fine.
like a chess timer or something like.
Whatever, yeah, whatever.
That's just it.
New pair of shoes, or yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And so, just one more question, kind of before we wrap up. I just like to ask, and you've given so many good points
Mhm.
and just things to think about, very actionable. But for the person who's sitting there today, who's watched this event live or watched the replay, and is going like, okay, actually, I think I'm starting to have this little like bubble of confidence in me that like I can
Cool.
be a homeowner, I can do this.
Mhm.
Like, what's your first, like your biggest bit of advice for that next step to keep that little bubble alive and not wake up tomorrow overwhelmed and
Mhm.
get back into that cycle? But how do you keep that confidence alive through the point of actually getting your first property?
Yeah, so what I would tell someone to do, and this is obviously selfish, is you buy this course, you
Hmm.
obviously do the work, right? That's key, but I added to this course about a year after. I created a private Facebook group
Mm,
just for course members. And now what you need to do is you need to join that Facebook group and be around 1,000 plus other individuals that are doing the work every day. And just watch, even if you just want to be a butterfly and watch people post deals, ask questions, take selfies, you got to be in a room full of positive people that are all doing the work. When you see other people winning, it just, you get evidence that it's worthwhile. And then something we didn't even mention yet, Jonah, is you have a discount to give people,
mhm.
which is pretty significant. So,
Yeah, well, and I was just veering
ah,
up to say, like, especially, like, this course is only $249, which is $50 off for a week. And if you think about, in my head, I was like, yeah, you could even think like in the future, I'll pull that out of the mortgage of the
yeah,
house if I need to. But that's
yeah,
a small investment to make. And clearly already it's very actionable. And I love your answer too. It's a small investment to surround yourself with a community of people who will hold you accountable,
yeah.
as well as all the information you're going to learn.
Yeah, and again, you
Right.
got bonus material. Like one of the bonus sections in there is from a mortgage broker. He tells you how to read a mortgage statement in this, and he tells you how to save thousands of dollars on a mortgage thing. I'm like, Matt, what are you doing? He's like, yeah, I'm gonna help people save $1,000. I'm like, Matt, this course is $299. What the hell? Right?
Right.
They're gonna have negative equity once they do a mortgage, right? It's pretty awesome. And then you have Airbnb and flipping and just so many other bonus sections. If you have any interest in real estate, this is the course for you. And again, you're allowing people to save $50, which is not something I normally do.
We appreciate that, yeah, and so it sounds like you've kept this course very current too, you're
Oh,
updating
every
it, it's
month we're
very
adding content.
that's so cool, and, is that a lifetime access to the course or what's the yep,
Yep,
yeah,
one time
that's
fee.
I've talked to a lot of creators, done a lot of events, that is a very reasonable offer for what you're providing.
Cool.
Appreciate that very much, especially because in my journey, I have learned too, it's like the friends I know who bought houses 10 years ago, even if they had a bad experience here and there, they're far better off, and it's so much easier to build wealth when you actually have property
Yeah,
regardless, yeah.
get on the property ladder. Yep.
Get on it. Yep. Well, we should wrap up just for time, but I appreciate you so much, Michael. Appreciate your time and giving us so much in this event. For everyone watching, if you like this video, please like and subscribe to the Discover channel, where we are trying to bring more creators like Michael all the time out to share their expertise and grow this community. And go give Michael's course a check. It's for 1 week, it's going to be that $50 off. But in general, Michael, if people want to find you, where should they go just to learn more or come back to the course in the future?
Yeah, I would go to onerentalatatime.com. The place I'm most active is YouTube. 5 videos a day. Again, one rental at a time.
Keep it up with 5 video. That is admirable in the content world. That is so cool. Well, thank you so much, Michael. I appreciate your time. Everyone watching, thank you for being here. We will see you all soon again. See you soon, Michael.